A daily look at sports from our resident historian. Your sports break during your lunch break. Live from the Mercedes-Benz of Baton Rouge studios. Here's Charles Hannegriff.
Good afternoon, sports fans. Welcome to Hanny Time 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge. Charles Hannegriff, Mario Jerez, Taylor Sharp with you this afternoon. Chris Rosvoglou from Boot Crew Media on the Saints here in about 15 minutes or so. See where he thinks Sean Payton's going to coach next year, because I'm really into the game this weekend. You know, that's the important thing. Actually, I'm much more interested in where Sean Payton is going. But man, we got so much stuff to get. Last night, if you couldn't find something that caught your attention to watch last night, I guess you're probably not listening to the show. you're not a sports fan. There was plenty to get to. LSU's really strong win against a top 10 team in Arkansas to open SEC play. Zion Williamson, a career high in the 1-point win for the Pelicans. One of the most exciting bowl games I've ever seen between Kansas and Arkansas. The nightcap where Texas Tech really kind of took Ole Miss to the woods. There was plenty to get to. So let's start with LSU's 60-57 win against Arkansas. In watching the 12 games that LSU had played prior to last night's game, I think that there were a few things that I had in my head that I considered truths about this team. Number one, I thought that they were well coached, and while the talent level is not overwhelming, I thought that the things that they run, the way that they defend, some of the things that they do off the ball are pretty fundamentally sound. You watch them play and you go, okay, this group is a very well-coached team. The second thing is that they're offensively challenged. They just don't have a bunch of guys that are really bona fide scorers. In fact, I would say they really have one. I would have said two going into the season, but now they've got one guy that they can count on to score pretty much night in and night out. And as soon as I tell you that, I'm going to tell you he had 8 points last night, and I thought he had a really good game, talking about KJ Williams, because he did something that a lot of leading scorers won't do, which is if the shot's not falling or they're not getting you the ball, your game tends to wane on any other aspects of it. And that guy set some of the most hellacious ball screens last night to get players loose, and when your best guy does that and he's doing those things, and you look at it, if you'd told me yesterday when we left the show, hey, KJ Williams is going to score 8 points, and I'm like, LSU's getting beat by 20. Okay, he scores 8 points last night. He only takes 7 shots, and I thought he was as good as anybody on the floor last night for LSU. Now, it's not going to be the thing in the box score that stands out at you like Hannibal coming off the bench for 19 points. But when your best player is busting it, even when he's not scoring, and he's setting ball screens for guys that are not as good as scorers as him, that's the mark of a team that's bought in, okay? I can tell you, this is not the most talented group in the country. It's not the most talented group in the league, but they defend. I mean, especially off the three-point line. One of the things they did last night was they denied a lot of the short corner passes, and that's the most vulnerable spot where you're going to get a lot of these these corner threes, and they denied a lot of that, and they defended. Most of the threes that Arkansas took last night were contested. They're 425 from three-point range, so all of those things were really, really good. Arkansas's previous low point total was 14 points better than what they scored last night. And even for an SEC opener where, the road team can be a little bit tight, that was a very, very strong defensive effort for LSU, and a terrific start to Matt McMahon's SEC career in his first game. He talked about the win after last night's 60-57 victory.
A couple things stand out. Number one, just really proud of our players. I thought they played with great toughness, great effort, and sustained it for 40 minutes. They deserve all the credit for just gutting out a tough, nasty, gritty win here. And then the second thing, just walking out of the tunnel and seeing the crowd and the atmosphere, the energy in the building on December 28th with the top 10 team in the country on your court. That was awesome. That was awesome. So really thankful to all the great Tiger fans who came out tonight, and really proud of our players for beating an outstanding basketball team.
I'm glad he mentioned the crowd. I probably should have done that in the open as well. I was surprised. I did not expect that type of crowd for a couple of reasons. Number one, school's out. Okay, the students are not there. The second thing is this is a holiday week. A lot of people have other things going on. It was an 8 o'clock tip, so that's the next thing. And to be honest with you, if you're not a diehard basketball fan, if you're just kind of a casual basketball fan, which is, I'm sorry to say, a lot of the market, they haven't done anything to catch your attention. I mean, if you're just a casual basketball fan that starts to pay attention when you get into February and March, and maybe if they're playing Kentucky or something, you'll look at a game earlier in the schedule. But this is always has been, okay. This is a fair weather basketball market. Sorry, just is, okay. When they're going good, they'll get out and support. If they're not going good, they won't show up at all. And in between is kind of in between. And I thought last night, even with a top 10 opponent coming in there, I'm like, I'm not really sure what kind of crowd they're going to get between Christmas and New Year's. They haven't, turned a lot of heads. They've been playing a lot of, down the line teams. They don't have a superstar on the team. It's like, I don't expect the crowd to be great. It was. So give them credit for that. And they got a really entertaining basketball game. You got a really strong defensive performance in the first half, and you got a really good offensive performance in the second half by both teams. You had a close game. You had, I thought, a very well officiated game. We don't say that very often. It was a very well officiated game. They let them play, and if you get out of the game and you go, man, I didn't really notice the officials all that much, that's pretty good too. The defense, that they had in the first half, in the second half, Arkansas got going a little bit, but McMahon talked about what made the difference after the break.
Their defense clearly bothered us in the first half, but I thought we were really good defensively, and that enabled us to go into the break with the lead. And then I just thought the difference in the game for us in the second half was going 14 to 22 from two-point range. We were able to eliminate some of those runners and floaters that we were taking in the first half and get all the way to the rim and finish plays. And, I think Justice Williams got downhill multiple times, Trey obviously, and for me that was probably the difference, our ability to finish those twos in the second half.
Speaking of Trey Hannibal, by the way, Trey Hannibal, SEC experience, Derek Fountain, SEC experience, both of those guys played really well last night. Hannibal has been a feast or famine guy. Scored 19 points last night. Previous 4 games, he had 15 points combined. So they needed it. They needed every bit of it. And he has at times, come off the bench. The game against Wofford, where I think they won the game by 3 points. He had a dozen off the bench. So not every night, but there are some times where he's given them a real spark. And last night, he was everything that they needed.
Oh, I thought it was important because Arkansas – fantastic defending the three. They don't overhelp off a lot of three-point shooters, so it opens up some driving lanes, and Trey took full advantage of those, getting to the basket. And, it's a small thing, but when you come into a game and it's an ugly, grinded-out game like that, and you're playing a team that's probably the best in America at scoring off turnovers created, the fact that we won that battle 13-4, points off turnovers, I thought was huge to us finding a way to win.
That's a team with 3 first-round picks on it, yeah, or Arkansas. Now, one of them, Smith didn't play last night, but that is a uber-talented roster. If Arkansas is in the second weekend of the NCAA tournament, nobody's going to be surprised. And they got a very good coach in Musselman. We know him. He spent a year here, but we've seen his act. And LSU beat him. Can you tell the surprise in my voice? I mean, I did not think that LSU was going to win this basketball game. I thought that they were going to be a little bit out of their depth last night, and they weren't, okay? Maybe talent-wise, but the cat they got on the bench knows what he's doing, yeah. It's pretty good. I'm really encouraged by what I saw at the PMAC last night. Also encouraged by what I saw at the Blender last night. We'll get to that a little bit, but Zion Williamson, right? You know, you got to have a lot of things to win in the NBA. You got to be able to play defense. You got to have rim protectors. You got to have shooters. You got to have a good bench. You got to have a good coach. But the one thing you got to have more than anything else is you got to have a guy that can score no matter where you're playing, no matter who you're playing. And it's the hardest thing to acquire because there's maybe 24 of those guys in the world, right? And Williamson's one of them. And you saw him at his absolute best last night as the Pels won 4 in a row. Get to that a little bit later when we come back. Chris Rosvoglou from Boot Crew Media will talk a little bit about the Saints and the future of Sean Payton as that speculation continues to ramp up as we come towards the end of the NFL season. This is Hanny Time, 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
This is Hanny Time.
Big Mike's coming up this weekend. Be closed for New Year's Eve, but we will have live music starting tonight, and we'll be open tomorrow and during the day on Saturday. Sunday, happy hour drink prices throughout the afternoon, starting at 11 o'clock. So you want to go watch the NFL, you want to go watch the Saints, you'll have those happy hour drink prices for you all throughout the afternoon at Big Mike's. You know, Big Mike's has been a real staple, a real centerpiece in the Denham Springs market for a long, long time. It's the quality of the work they put in. Look, Big Mike's there all the time. You know, when you run a place like that, you want to make sure the quality is high. You want to make sure the service and the food, the drinks, all of them at a high level. He does it every time. Great atmosphere. So we encourage you to stop in. Again, we talk about it being in the heart of Denham Springs. The Denham Springs Hall of Fame is out there. That's when you know you're woven into the community. Check them out on Aspen Boulevard in Denham Springs. Big Mike's, we're kind of a big deal.
In times of need, get a full list of phone numbers, websites, and other important emergency information on the Demco Stormwatch page at 1045ESPN.com.
Winter can be magical. The Mercedes-Benz Winter Event is here, and there's no better time to check out our new Mercedes-Benz of Baton Rouge inventory. We have the vehicles that can make your holiday extraordinary. See all the latest technological features on the newest models during our Mercedes-Benz Winter Event. Shop our best of the best award-winning dealership. Visit mbobr.com.
A third of youth who grow up in foster care are homeless 18 months after aging out of care. But you can rewrite that story. Children and youth with CASA and GAL volunteers are more likely to find safe, permanent homes. Change a child's story. Become a volunteer today.
Eli's always been into grilling. It took us a while to see it, but the signs were there.
What are you doing, Eli?
I knew grilling was my thing. I have been talking about it throughout my career.
Happy with the results?
I am. Got the new grill from barbecueguys.com. It performed great.
My advice, as I always told my boys,
Do more of what you were born to do.
Barbecue Guys, for those who were born to grill.
You want cheese on your burger, Pops?
I'll take a little cheese.
Bayou Ford has $10,000 off MSRP on a new 2022 Ford F-150, plus no payments for 90 days and 2.9% APR for 72 months. All new Bayou vehicles come with a 1 million mile powertrain warranty. If you need sales or service, the crew at Bayou Ford is going to do right by you. Crime has serious consequences, but anyone can make a mistake. If you find yourself in trouble with the law, know that you have rights, and it's okay to demand them. The law offices of O.C. Brown are here to protect you and your rights. Felony or misdemeanor, DUI or drug charge. No matter what crime you're accused of, you still have rights. Let the law offices of O.C. Brown uphold them. Call 225-343-1111. Your law firm for a lifetime.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals, but many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
Toyota in Opelousas is here to help you ring in the new year with no markups, and you'll never pay over MSRP. And we have new inventory arriving daily. So Happy New Year from our Corvette Toyota.
Hey, it's Hunt. Join me Thursday, 1 to 3. Luke Johnson on the Saints as they get ready for the Eagles, Tigers, and Hogs on the hardwood. And let's talk Purdue football, or what's left of it. Hunt Palmer Show, 1 to 3 weekdays, 104.5 ESPN, Baton Rouge.
This is Hanny Time, your sports break during your lunch break with Charles Hannegriff on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
I'm going to address the Keyshawn Boutte thing in the next segment for those that are asking about it. Yes, I do have an opinion and a little bit of information on it, so we'll talk about that coming up in the following segment. Right now, we bring in Chris Rosvoglou from Boot Crew Media. Chris, hope you had a terrific holiday, and thanks for spending some time with us today. How are you?
I'm doing well, and I did, and I hope the same is with you guys.
I'm glad for one. Well, I'm assuming here that you did not have any flights booked on Southwest Airlines, right? So you know you're not in the airport. You're in pretty good shape. You got all your bags. Everything good.
Yeah, everything's all good on this front, thankfully.
All right. We'll get to the game in a second, but I want your take on I don't know that there's any new information, but the speculation is ramping up as we get to the end of the NFL season about where Sean Payton is going to end up. So give me your latest read on what's really been multiple reports this week about where he might be heading.
Yeah, my first thought is, at some point when Sean starts to get linked to certain teams, there's a reason it's going out there. And the most interesting thing is this is now the second time in the last month that Sean Payton's kind of been linked back to the Saints. And this time around, it's with the added caveat of saying, oh, maybe he brings Tom Brady with him, which I'm sure would be an interesting storyline, not just for the Saints, but the NFL as a whole. But I think that for Sean, whether it's Denver, whether it's, the Colts and other teams that will be linked to him, I think the important thing is going to be who's going to be that right-hand man with him. And when I look at where Sean's going to go, I think the GM spot's going to be just as important for him. So if teams like the Broncos are going to stick with their current GM, that could maybe sour that situation and really hurt their chances of getting him. Now, I think over the next 2 weeks, especially after Week 18 is over, maybe another job or two will open. There's been a lot of rumblings about the Cardinals being in the mix for Sean Payton, and oddly enough, some odds makers actually have them as a favorite, even though Kingsbury's still there as the head coach. So for me, I feel like it's still so early that, right now what we're hearing, it's all just kind of whispers, but there's two things that we could say. We know that Sean wants to coach again. He's made that abundantly clear. And I think the second thing is he's not going to go to a situation that's going to need a ton of work. I mean, he left the Saints team that, there's things that need to be patched up, but there's far worse situations. So, a team like Indy, there's a lot of work that needs to be done there. A team like Denver, maybe not as much, but does he really want to hitch his legacy onto fixing Russell Wilson? So I kind of think the perfect job for him right now hasn't really opened up.
All right, let me take these kind of one by one, and let me start with Arizona, because I read this piece in the Arizona Republic earlier this week about all of the attractive things about the Cardinals' job that might appeal to Sean Payton. And one of the things that they said, it's the local, the local publication. I get the optimism, is that, hey, Arizona's got a franchise quarterback in place, and I'm like, do they? So you tell me, is Kyler Murray a player that you would want to hitch your wagon to if you were Sean Payton?
If Sean Payton loves his skill set, I would say yes, because I do think Kyler Murray is an explosive playmaker. And, you look at what the Cardinals did at the start of last year, he was an MVP candidate, but that comes down to preference, right? Because if Sean doesn't really love that skill set, then you got to factor that in with all the reports we've heard about as whether or not Kyler puts in the work all the time studying and him kind of clashing with Cliff Kingsbury. So if he doesn't love the fit and he also doesn't love the personality, then I could really see it, them colliding. And it's almost not just Kyler for me. I think the Cardinals as a whole It's an aging roster. I mean, one of their best players this year has been J.J. Watt, surprisingly. He just announced that he's going to retire. DeAndre Hopkins isn't getting any younger. So I still feel like Arizona's got so many issues. And you play in the NFC West where the Rams should get better. Niners are in a good spot, and the Seahawks just had an absolute great draft. So I don't really love the Cardinals spot for him. And to your point, I'm iffy about Kyler Murray. I always thought the perfect quarterback for Sean would be, if the Chargers job opens up. But I don't think it is. So the Cardinals one's a little bit tricky. I think the talent's there for Kyler, but I don't know if that's the quarterback that Sean wants to work with.
I don't know if it is either. I'd be also equally leery of working with that ownership group, which is not good, never has been. So I'm with you on that part. I threw out earlier in the week the Raiders as a possibility because it checks a lot of boxes. Number one, they've got a lousy coach that they need to get rid of. The second thing is they've got their draft capital. I think they would pay him. And up until yesterday, I said, you've got a competent quarterback there. You may not have a top 6 quarterback in the NFL, but you don't have a bottom 6 quarterback either. I would put Derek Carr in the top half of the league, somewhere probably in that second quadrant. And then yesterday, they bench him. And it's certainly not because they want to see what they've got in Jarrett Stidham, because I've watched Jarrett Stidham play. They have nothing there. They have a backup quarterback on his best day. So this is, to me, a contract situation. They can cut Derek Carr right after the Super Bowl and owe him pennies on the dollar. I think it's a little over $5 million in cap costs. So they can move on from him, and they are benching him so that he doesn't get hurt so that they can move on from him. I don't know if that means that they're definitely moving on from McDaniels, though they need to. But what do you think about the Raiders as a possibility?
Well, I think to your point, if that job did open up, then it's really interesting because, one, you talk about just a big group, a franchise that, look, if Sean goes there and fixes the Raiders, man, that really adds to his legacy. But also the quarterback spot opened up. And if you're talking about Sean being linked to Tom Brady, and it kind of feels like this has happened 3 out of the last 4 years, they're going to need a new quarterback. And, it seems like Derek Carr will be gone. Maybe he ends up, being moved to the Saints. Who knows? I'm sure that's a team that will be linked to him over the next couple of weeks. But, I think the Raiders would be an interesting spot because, for me, I think there is talent on this roster. They did add Chandler Jones. They have an elite defensive end in Max Crosby. So you'll have a set pass rush for at least next season. And playmaking-wise, I think Sean would be able to get the best out of a guy like Darren Waller at the tight end spot. And, of course, obviously Devontae Adams and Hunter Renfrow are great playmakers in their own right. So I think it would be, if it were to open up, probably the most intriguing spot out of all the ones available. But my gut kind of tells me that McDaniels gets another year, although to kind of what you said, not so sure he deserves it.
I'd feel very foolish asking you what's the fascination with Tom Brady because, he's Tom Brady. So let me ask it this way. What's Sean Payton's fascination with what will be next year, a 46-year-old Tom Brady? Because this is not a long-term fix. I don't know that there's going to be a situation where he can come in and in 1 year turn whatever team it is into a Super Bowl winner. So where's the fascination with a 46-year-old Tom Brady?
I was thinking about that this week too, because when he gets linked to the Saints, you kind of think to yourself, okay, the 2023 season would be, fun and there'd be a lot of storylines to follow, but where do you go after that? At some point, Tom Brady has to retire. I know we all think he'll play forever, but at some point this will end. And I think the only thing I can think about as to why it might make sense is if you're Sean and maybe you don't really love this quarterback class or you don't really think that the guy is out there yet for the future, at least Brady would give you a year to kind of look around the league, evaluate some guys that maybe will get a second chance or maybe start to position yourself better for the 2024 draft, which will have a couple of talented quarterbacks to say the least. So that's kind of the only real thought process I have. Like, I know that for a year, I think Sean can win with Tom Brady. And you kind of think of 2020 where even though Breeze couldn't really push the ball past 15 yards down the field, Saints were still a team that won a lot of games because Sean gets the best out of his guys. But outside of that, I have to imagine it kind of gives you a year, maybe 2 years of being able to evaluate your options and not have to feel like you're rushing to find the quarterback of the future. That's the only explanation I can really come up with right now.
With 2 games left in the regular season, check one of these off. A, Dennis Allen is definitely going to be back with the Saints next year. B, Dennis Allen is definitely not going to be back with the Saints next year. C, it depends what happens in these last two games, whether Dennis Allen's going to be back next year.
I kind of want to say it's A, and I think that for the Saints, I kind of expect them to win one out of the next two games, so that will make them finish at 7-10. And I just think for New Orleans, with the way the division's set up, I just wouldn't be surprised if they say, okay, let's go into the offseason. We're going to change up the quarterback room, maybe change up the offensive play caller, which I do think if you're going to keep the head coach, something needs to change on the coaching staff. I don't think you can run this whole thing back. I wonder, with the division kind of being wide open, if they say, okay, you get one more year, DA, you get to kind of pick your quarterback. Maybe it's a Derek Carr, maybe it's a Jimmy Garoppolo, maybe it's not even any of those options. Maybe they get a younger guy in there and just kind of see if, in a weak division with another year around, maybe better injury luck, because it's hard to kind of be worse than it was this year. Can they win 9, 10 games and win the division? And if so, maybe the Saints feel better about Dennis Allen. I kind of think of the Saints as an organization that they don't really make those super quick decisions where they move on after a coach after 1 year. I just don't know if they want to do that. And I thought if the Saints lost the last two games and they ended the season on a long losing streak, they'd have no choice but to fire DA. But look, whether people like him or not, the guys are playing for him. And the energy level hasn't changed despite the fact that this team has been under 500 for a long time. Whether it's the Browns game, whether you look back 2 weeks ago against the Falcons, and I'm sure against the Eagles, the energy level will be there. Whether or not they get the result is the story.
Chris Rosvoglou is our guest from Boutte Media. You do a great job of covering the Saints, so I guess I should ask you a question about the game, right? I mean, let me try to work one of those in before we finish. This has been a notoriously bad matchup for New Orleans. The last couple of matchups with Philadelphia, the way they run the football, they've gone for over 200 yards the last two times they have played. I was impressed with the way that they defended the run in Cleveland, not so much with the way that they defended the run when they played the Falcons. So you tell me, what Saints run defense might we see against Philadelphia?
Well, I think if Jalen Hurts doesn't play, I think that we see the run defense of last week kind of show up. Now, if Jalen Hurts plays, then I think all bets are off. And I think that's where it gets really tricky, because the Saints couldn't stop Jalen Hurts as a rookie. They couldn't stop him in his second year, and I surely don't think they'd be able to stop him in a year where he's an MVP candidate. So I think his status more than anything kind of determines that, because a lot of what the Eagles have done against the Saints have come off their ability to run those option plays, mix in the RPO, and really put the Saints defensive front in a bind. And I think if he does miss this game, don't get me wrong, Gardner Minshew is still a very good quarterback. He's one of the best backups in the league. And we saw last week they still put up 34 points against the Cowboys, so they could very well win the game with him. But you don't really put a front seven in such a tough spot with Gardner Minshew as you do with Jalen Hurts. So I think his status is going to be important to watch, as are the status of guys like Miles Sanders and then Lane Johnson, the all-pro tackle. He's expected to miss this game. So I think in terms of availability, Saints might kind of dodge a bullet here, and for that reason, I kind of think that we'll see a better performance from the run defense.
Can I ask you one question about that has nothing to do with the Saints, but it's an NFL thing, and this just came across, so I'm intrigued by it. What the hell's going on in Tennessee? They fire a general manager when they're in first place. They haven't won a game in a month and a half. Starting quarterback goes down, and instead of taking and going with Malik Willis, who they feel like might be their quarterback of the future, they're going to start Joshua Dobbs tonight. You got any read at all on what's going on up there?
In terms of the whole situation, it's really tough to get a read. But, when it comes to tonight's decision, when I first saw it, my thought process was I think Vrabel's trying to figure out if Dobbs for the Week 18 finale would be an upgrade over Malik Willis. And the only way he finds that out is if he puts him in the game against Dallas and he shows some improvements. And I like certain skill sets that Malik Willis had coming out of Liberty. But so far, in terms of passing, it just hasn't been there yet. And he was always going to need time. So if Tennessee feels like Dobbs plays better tonight, then I guess they feel more comfortable for that Week 18 game, because even if they lose by 50 tonight, doesn't really matter as long as they win that final game against the Jaguars. So that's the only thing I can think there. But it's been a weird year, trading A.J. Brown, like you said, firing the GM in the middle of the season after giving him an extension earlier in the year. It's just a really weird spot for the team. But I'd imagine the Dobbs move is their way of saying, hey, we got to figure out who gives us the best chance to win in Week 18.
And I think Vrabel's a really good coach. Wouldn't surprise me if they fired him. Something's going on up there. I don't know what it is, but something's going on up there. Chris, we appreciate your time. Have a happy new year, and we'll talk to you soon.
Happy New Year, guys. Thanks for having me.
Chris Rosvoglou from Boot Crew Media. We'll take a break. This is Hanny Time 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
This is Hanny Time.
You're a business owner, you're having problems with staffing. You are not alone. It's time-consuming. It's frustrating. Between the interviews, the background checks, all of the payroll expenses that you come through, listen, you need some help. Tiger Labor and Staffing can help you do all of those things, not just the interview process and the background checks, but the onboarding as well. You're not going to have to worry about unqualified applicants coming into your office. You're not going to have to worry about no-show interviews. They can handle all of these processes for you, and whether you need somebody for short term, a day or a week, you need them a little bit longer for a month, you can control your labor expenses. You can increase your flexibility with Tiger Labor and Staffing. If you're looking for a job, Tiger Labor and Staffing welcomes skilled and unskilled labor. They'll match you with a job that fits. Turnaround on pay is very rapid. So get your work done without the worries. Tiger Labor and Staffing. Go to tigerlabor.com.
Our listeners fire up their opinions on the jimsfirearms.net hotline at 499-1045. Keep listening for your next chance to shoot us your thoughts with the jimsfirearms.net hotline on 1045 ESPN Baton Rouge.
There it is, the extra mile, on the border of expected and extraordinary for those willing to go further, like vans customized for work or play, with safety and tech to keep you connected. Supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team. And backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
Time doesn't stop and the world keeps spinning. Community, culture, and communications. The powerful circle that connects us together. We're creating the next evolution. A network built for every possibility, moving faster than ever before, streaming us forward into the future. And the revolution is closer than you think. RTC, ETEL, and Vision are now Rev. New name, same company.
Gulf Coast Office Products is a nationally recognized Savin office equipment dealer based right here in Louisiana. Over 100 employees strong, Gulf Coast has the boots on the ground to support all vertical markets, from education, engineering, legal, and finance. With the latest in office technology, from desktop to production segment units, Gulf Coast and Savin have the perfect fit for you. Call 225-756-2644. That's 756-2644 for Gulf Coast Office Products.
Louisiana. It's a place defined by culture, by pride, by passion, by people who do more than love this place. They celebrate it, elevate it, champion it. They are the individuals who embody what makes Louisiana great. The companies that make Louisiana a better place to work and live. The nonprofits leading transformational change in our communities. Champions of Louisiana are all around us, and LWCC is proud to celebrate them because we've always been Louisiana loyal, supporting the workers, the innovators, the change agents of this great place we call home. Who are the champions around you? Together, we can share their stories. Together, we can help our home state thrive. Together, we are Louisiana loyal. Always.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals, but many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
You ever heard the tale of the misunderstood bull? A menacing beast who was born to float. A force of nature. The embodiment of grace. Quite grand, yet quiet and nimble. The Infiniti QX80.
Experience the Infiniti QX80 at your local Infiniti retailer.
Oh, hey, what's up? It's Big D and Bubba, 100.7 The Tiger Morning Show. We'd love for you to join us every weekday, 4 a.m. till 9 a.m.
Yeah, everything you want in a show. Country music. We got laughs. We got celebrity in-studio guests. We just need you.
Week 17 in the NFL. Tune in on Sunday as the Tampa Bay Buccaneers host the Carolina Panthers at noon, right here on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
This is Hanny Time with Charles Hannigreth on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Bowl game starting here in about 25 minutes. Minnesota and Syracuse is not the top game of the day. We got a couple interesting ones, though, later on. Washington and Texas is of some particular interest to me later on tonight. I want to watch Michael Penix get a really, really good year. All right. Let's talk about Keyshawn Boutte, who announced yesterday or reversed his decision and is going to go pro. This followed an announcement from LSU that he was not going to be in the bowl game. Let me tell you what my information on this, and I know everybody loves a good conspiracy theory about why this happened. So let me tell you what my information is, and I believe all of this to be true. Number one, he is not leaving because of Jaden Daniels. So I know everybody loves a good conspiracy. They didn't have the best chemistry on the field this year. Were they going to work on it? Yeah. If it was Jaden Daniels, he would have left a week ago. He would have left. He would have known what Daniels was going to do. He would have left. It has nothing to do with Jaden Daniels. Boutte broke a rule on the team. Okay. He was not in academic difficulty to my knowledge. He was not in any legal difficulty to my knowledge, and he did not fail a test to my knowledge. My knowledge is that he broke a team rule that was outside of all of that, and he was not going to be available for the bowl game. And there was a pretty good chance if he came back, there was going to be some further discipline coming on down the road. Never got that far. So that's it. I don't have all of the details about what rule he broke. I was just able to rule some of the things out. So all of the theories. This is just me. Okay, the sources that I've got tell me that it was not academic related, it was not Jaden Daniels related, it was not test related, and it was not legal related. He broke a team rule outside of all of those things, and he was not going to be able to play in the bowl game. And there was a pretty good chance that there was going to be some further discipline coming on down the road, and they didn't want to deal with. He didn't want to deal with that, so he's going to put himself in the NFL draft. That's it. I mean, I could give you a lot more. I could make up a bunch of stuff if you wanted me to, but I'm not. It's what it is. As a rule, he broke it. That's I guess you could call it a suspension. He wasn't going to play in a bowl game. All right. So was there going to be something else down the line? Don't know. Never got that far. My guess is yes, but that's nothing more than a guess. So that's the deal. Broke a rule, and that's it. What can I say? The guy left. It was kind of star-crossed. He had a breakout season as a freshman, and the second season was tough because of the coaching change, and then he had the injury, and it never really got back on track. My guess is that he will be a second-day pick in the NFL draft. We'll see. I'm sure he'll run fine at the combine and all that stuff, and I think he's fallen based on his production. I think he has fallen out of the first round and will probably be a second-day pick. And if he plays up to his potential, somebody will get a really good player on the second day. So that's what I got. I wish I could confirm one of these wonderful out there conspiracy theories about why. It's pretty simple. He broke a team rule. He wasn't going to be with them for the bowl game, and he decided to move on. That's it. That's what I got. So wanted to move on to the Pelicans. 119-118 win against the Timberwolves last night down at the Blender. They win their fourth straight. I could talk about the game and a lot of the things that went on in it, but I really want to talk about Zion Williamson. The 43 points last night, a career high, and you saw him take over the game. I said this earlier in the show. There's not that many people that can do what he did last night. There's not that many people that can score no matter what. I mean, there's probably 24 guys in the NBA, and I don't mean score, but, you take 22 shots and score 17 points. Okay, they got plenty of guys that can do that. But I'm talking about that can score at a high rate and at a high efficiency. There might be 24 people in the world that can do what Zion Williamson did last night. And even that's not what I want to talk about. I really wanted to talk about what Zion Williamson said after the game about New Orleans deserving this.
It's the crib. It's the fort. You got to protect your fort. And, I talked about it over the summer. The city deserves this. The city deserves to have a basketball team because, the Saints, they've been holding it down for so many years, and you got to give them that respect. But, the city deserves to have, the Pelicans be great too. Last year, the team started figuring it out towards the end, and instead of letting it be like, oh, that was a fluke or we're happy with that, nobody was satisfied. Everybody got in the lab. Even me, joining the team back and playing in games, we want to do something special.
I want to take that clip and I want to shove it down the throat of every Stephen A. Smith, every Michael Wilbon, every Kendrick Perkins, every Mark Stein, every one of those guys that from the second the ping pong balls fell New Orleans' way said, how fast can we get Zion Williamson out of New Orleans? I mean, every one of those guys. I want to shove it down their throat. I want to make them listen to it on a loop. I want to put it in their vehicle. I want to put it in their shower. I want to put it in their kitchen. I want them to have to listen to it over and over and over again. Okay? Because the amount of just absolute animosity towards the market for no reason, okay? It's a smaller market. Milwaukee's a smaller market, okay? Cleveland's a smaller market. Charlotte's a smaller market. You don't get that garbage. Oh, New Orleans, okay? And after having to listen to Chris Paul, after having to listen to Anthony Davis, after Eric Gordon gets a contract extension and looks like he's being sentenced to prison, after that's all, folks. After all of that, I'd just like to say, you know what? Not that bad a place. You know what? Pretty good team. Pretty good coach. Pretty competent ownership group now. They're not broke anymore. The league doesn't own the team anymore. He's not looking to get out anymore. Did I forget Rich Paul? I'd really like to shove this down Rich Paul's throat.
Bill Simmons, too.
Bill Simmons, thank you, Mario. Very, very good assist there. I'd like to put this. Does Clutch have an office? Wherever their office is, I'd like to get a billboard. I want a billboard, a great big giant billboard right outside of Clutch's offices. Clutch Sports, the ones that, hey man, New Orleans doesn't even really deserve a team. How fast can we get? We don't want to just get players out of there. We want to get the team out of there. Screw you. That's what Zion Williamson told him last night. Screw you. I'm playing here. We're going to win here. I like it here. I'm signing a contract extension here. This city deserves it here. Willie Green, after the game, said, you know what? Pretty proud of Zion.
I'm proud of him no matter what happens, what he's overcome already early in his career, how he handles adversity, how he handles being in the spotlight is tough. And to see how he's building this season in terms of getting his game, back at a high level. He's working, he's watching film, he's working with Coach Teresa Weatherspoon, and they're getting after it. So I'm extremely proud of him for what he does, both on and off the floor.
I got to be honest, I was watching football, I was watching LSU basketball. I wasn't as zeroed in on the Pels game. I had it on, but I wasn't as zeroed in on it as I might have been if there was nothing else on. But I can tell you what my favorite moment of the whole game was. Mario, can you guess?
Oh, there's so many to pick from. The steal and dunk.
Good, awesome submission. No, my favorite was when he drilled a three.
Oh.
He only took one. It was like at that point, they had to sag off of him so much. They were like, you're just pounding the rim. You're just killing us in the paint. We got to let you take that one. And he took it and he drilled it.
You knew they were going to win when that went down.
Yeah. I mean, and look, the Timberwolves aren't great. And, yeah, I would have rather seen New Orleans open up a little bit more. And I'm not, hey, look, they won a game by 1 point. It's the NBA. You take the wins where you can get them. I was hoping, that there would be a little bit more breathing room. But you take the wins where you can get them. I thought it was great. Not just the way he played. I mean, anybody can see that. But what he said after the game, I thought that was really, really strong. And believe me, we've heard enough with that franchise and enough. Would you ask me earlier, Taylor, what would the national media's reaction? You were asking on a different topic. What would the national media's reaction be? I would like to get some national reaction from this. Can I get just a little bit of, hey, the Pelicans are real contenders for the Western Division, the Western Conference Championship, okay? They probably won't win it. They're probably a little bit too young. They may be a year away from a deep, deep playoff run, but they're going to go further than they went last year. I feel very confident in that. And they certainly could make it all the way to the finals. Like I said, they probably won't. They're probably a year away. There's a stepping process in the NBA. You really have to lose a little bit before you can win most of the time. When they get deep into the playoffs, it's a different game, and they're going to have to learn how to play that. But they acquitted themselves pretty well a year ago, and I think they're going to take another step this year. They're going to be – can we talk about that? Can we talk about how the superstar is really happy to be there? Can we not just crap all over New Orleans every chance we get? Just one time. Hey, they're up near the top of the standings, and the superstar is performing, and he's happy. Celebrate that for just a second, if you don't mind. We'll take a break, come back, take some of your questions, wrap things up. Hanny Time, 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
This is Hanny Time.
As we approach the end of the calendar year at Acura and Infinity of Baton Rouge, we want to remind you 3.9% APR financing for 60 months on most models on the lot. And if it's an MDX or a TLX, you're going to get $1,000 in loyalty cash back. 2-year, 24,000-mile complimentary scheduled maintenance on all 2023 models. And if you're in the market for a pre-owned vehicle, the certified pre-owned selection is large right now. You're going to get 7 years, 100,000-mile or 100,000-mile powertrain coverage. Roadside assistance is included. Your first scheduled maintenance is free. Complimentary service vehicles. It's one of my favorite features over there. It means when your vehicle goes in for maintenance, they're going to give you a vehicle so you don't have to arrange for transportation or wait around for it. Transparency in pricing and a family atmosphere. That's why we've continued to buy our vehicles at Acura and Infinity of Baton Rouge.
In times of need, get a full list of phone numbers, websites, and other important emergency information on the Demco Stormwatch page at 1045ESPN.com.
Gulf Coast Bank and Trust is giving our customers the power to bank anywhere, anytime during this challenging event. And we're right there with you. Our mobile banking app is a smart way to manage your money and time. Gulf Coast Bank and Trust, the bank that cares about you.
This is a house call. This is a follow-up appointment. This is a diabetes checkup. This isn't just more convenient care, it's more advanced care. This is innovating healthcare at Louisiana's #1 hospital, Auctioner.
This winter, meet the heroes of performance. Only available at the Acura Season of Performance.
This winter, visit your local Acura dealer for attractive offers on the Integra.
ServiceMaster Elite create clean, disinfected work environments. As a local business, we take pride in serving the New Orleans and Baton Rouge areas. Our cleaning protocols follow CDC and OSHA standards for healthcare settings, offices, senior living, restaurants, and industrial plants. Contact ServiceMaster Elite to get your operation ready for reopening with germ disinfection cleaning. ServiceMaster Elite, the trusted choice in professional cleaning since 1996.
It's no secret, the best oysters in Baton Rouge are at Jolie Pearl Oyster Bar. Enjoy mouth-watering South Louisiana flavor and oysters from all over the country. And don't forget our nightly drink specials. Jolie Pearl Oyster Bar, located in downtown Baton Rouge.
There it is, the extra mile, on the border of expected and extraordinary for those willing to go further, like vans customized for work or play, with safety and tech to keep you connected, supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team, and backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded.
So join us for Thursday's AFR, presented by Aesthetic Medicine and Anti-Aging Clinics of Louisiana. We continue to talk LSU, Purdue in the Citrus Bowl and preview Saints-Eagles with Mike Triplett. AFR 3 to 6, 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
This is Hanny Time with Charles Hannigreth on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Ask Hanny, how bad was the Arkansas football collapse last night? Up 15 with a minute and a half to go and let Kansas tie it. Well, okay. So I enjoyed the hell out of that game. And the appropriate question to ask me, I guess, is did you really enjoy that game because once it got to triple overtime and you had Kansas plus 2.5, you felt really good? And the answer to that would be yes. We had Kansas in the game, and I'm sitting there going, well, there's no way. Beautiful onside kick. If you were listening back at the beginning of the season, when we were doing a show in September, I raved about Jalen Daniels. Love the kid. I love his game. They got out of the gate. Was it 5-0? Yeah, 5-0. And then he got hurt.
Bayou Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram has $10,000 off MSRP on all new 2022 Black Widow Jeep Gladiators in stock. All new Bayou vehicles come with a 1 million mile powertrain warranty and free delivery. If you need,
you have to consider it a collapse if it's 15 points, okay? It's so rare to get an onside kick these days the way the rules are configured that you have to say, look, if you can't successfully field an onside kick, then it is a collapse. But it was just such a fun game. And yeah, I was happy because because I won. So yeah, I really enjoyed that one. Ask Candy, did you see the decals honoring Leach on the Ole Miss helmets and the penalty to start the game? Yeah, that was well done. Okay, and obviously that game had some meaning because he coached at Texas Tech and because he had a what looked like a pretty cordial relationship with Lane Kiffin. At least they were able to have some fun with it, and that's not always the case between coaches at Ole Miss and Mississippi State. So yeah, I liked I liked the way they did that last night. Ask Hanny, did they threaten you about? Did they force you to make that Boutte Jaden take? No, I didn't. Listen, again, I said what I know is. Has happened here. I don't have every detail of the story, so I'm not just, like I said, I'm not just going to make stuff up, okay? He broke a rule. He was going to be out for the bowl game, and he decided to go pro. But let me entertain you here for just a second, for those that think that this had something to do with Jaden Daniels. Why yesterday? I mean, Jaden Daniels announced a week ago that he was coming back, and I'm quite certain that Boutte had that information before it became public. How long before it became public? I don't know. But, I mean, it's a team. They're in the locker room. They talk. just because stuff isn't public doesn't mean that they don't know what's going on. If he had a problem with Daniels, he would have hit the door weeks ago, either for the NFL or hell, he could have put himself in the transfer portal if he'd wanted to. He'd had plenty takers. So the Daniels thing doesn't make any sense from any angle, okay? If you're saying, well, and listen, I understand why that narrative is out there. There were times in the beginning part of the season where I would have said, look, man, the chemistry between these two guys on the field is pretty frosty. I don't know what it is off the field, but on the field, it ain't great. Got a little bit better as the season went along, but it was never perfect, hoping that was what was going to happen in the offseason. So didn't happen, and that's the whole story. I don't know what else to tell you. Hunt Palmer is next for Mario Jerez. For Taylor Sharp, I'm Charles Hanniger saying thank you and good afternoon. It's been Hanny Time, 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
This is Hanny Time.
Supreme Rice and SupremeRice.com. You cooking up for the playoff games this weekend? Got a little group getting together. I think we might be cooking something with some Supreme Rice, whether it be a gumbo or an etouffee, whether it be a big pot of red beans. Make it with Supreme Rice and support our Louisiana farmers. They've been growing, milling, and processing Supreme Rice down in southwest Louisiana near Crowley since the 1930s. So pick it up at your Rouse's. We'll be at Rouse's tomorrow afternoon from 3 until 5. Pick it up at your AG food stores, at all of your Walmarts, including your Walmart neighborhood stores. Get it in the brown, the long grain, the medium grain, or the jasmine, and you're going to stretch your food dollar while enjoying a delicious product. For more information, some unique recipes, go to the website, SupremeRice.com.
'22 Ford F-150, plus no payments for 90 days and 2.9% APR for